Hello again, it's Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the garage and talking to the folks that make the race cars go around the racetracks. We are so glad you joined us. Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm great. Great. Coming off a phenomenal... I love the changes SMI did to the racetrack. Yeah. I thought the changing from turn 5 to turn 6...
Yep,
and making turn 7, they eliminated a corner out of it, but they made turn 7 a hairpin. Great passing zone, a lot of action.
Added a lot to the passing zone there, and to your point last week, added a lot to the passing zone into turn number 10 because you got wound up. You could see that momentum through turn 9, which is oval turn 2. Mo, you could see that momentum. I thought about your point last week about getting off that hairpin. I thought about that multiple times throughout the weekend because you could see the speed difference, who got off in that turn quicker.
Yeah, it definitely changed the racetrack to being more, how acceleration driven.
Yeah.
And getting power down, getting forward drive.
Yep.
A couple different places there. Slowed them down through the last chicane there. What is it, 16, 17?
Yeah, 16, 17.
Coming to the start-finish line, but that got a little more slow as well. So, but great racing.
Yes.
Thought we saw a great race. Hey, speaking of great racing and great accomplishments, I'm going to give it out.
Yeah.
The 45 team, Billy Scott, everybody there. Tyler Reddick didn't look like it was terrible to start with, didn't quite understand. They had a broken mount in the rear clip.
So we talked tolling, but it was more than that.
No, it was internal, and you can't see it with the carbon floors and the wheel tubs. You couldn't see back into that until afterwards. But right rear was way low, 5% low on cross. Like and it was moving. Like didn't know where the cambers and toe were going because they had a broken mount in the rear clip. Continued to work all day long, multiple times to pit road. Got themselves in a position, had the caution come there at 80, took tires, fired their way forward, got themselves in a great position, came out with a top 15 finish.
It was impressive to watch. The visual I have with it is Billy, and of course you got MJ right over the shoulder. I mean, it just the visual on that is fascinating. It really truly is. You got the greatest basketball player of all time and team owner, and Billy was just executing repair damage flawlessly. The call on lap 80 to go on offense with tires with a damaged race car.
I feel like that was a no-brainer because they weren't driving forward and they were out of the playoffs at that point.
Yeah, okay.
Joey Logano was in a position he had a 3 or 4 point advantage over him.
They weren't going to
they weren't coming forward.
Okay.
So at that point, my best play is put tires on.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and make one more swing at it. See what we can do. And he put Tyler Reddick on offense on
well, I like that.
That's the other part. And Tyler did a great job of, I mean, he was a bull in a china shop for a little bit of that, but, warranted. Yeah. And did a great job driving forward.
He really did. It was great stuff, and the 45 team moves forward into the round of 8. A couple of attaboys, Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson. There are times when this team can stink up a race.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it at Bristol, and I was waiting, okay, we have this final pit stop. Okay, let's see what happens. Maybe they have a misstep. They came off from pit road further ahead than Christopher Bell, and they went down pit road. When this team is on, man, they are money.
Yeah, they do a great job. They call them young money, right?
Money, yeah.
So,
middle-aged money now. We're working on middle-aged money.
Middle-aged money. Kyle Larson's just a generational talent in a race car, and Cliff does a great job of making sure all the details are covered. When they do that, they're in a great position, and they'll be one of the guys I feel like will be in our Final Four.
Yep. I had the chance to ask a question post-race press conference, just hanging out over there, and I asked Kyle about this round, and to me, Talladega set them up for the Roval. Getting that 4th-place finish at Talladega. They come out with a 26th-place finish at Kansas. You thought they're in trouble if they do what they normally do at Talladega.
Yes, I did.
Talladega, to me, is what moved them forward and then set them up. I think they came in 52 points to the good or something like that into the Roval, or 25 points to the good.
I think it was 20-something, yeah.
20-something, 25 points to the good. Okay, cool. Final attaboy, Marty Lindley and Sam Mayer. It was chaos in the Xfinity Series, but Marty, I'll tell you, this is where veteran crew chief keeping young drivers' head in the game. We're going to re-rack.
When he has a restart penalty on the initial green flag and has to come down pit road, battled their way back. Definitely one of the 3 best cars there all day. I would say arguably the best car there. Even above Shane Van Gisbergen and AJ Allmendinger. I would say those were the 3 best cars, but I thought that one car, I thought they were really good, and they put themselves in position. The caution came out like it should have.
Yes,
it came out later than it should have with 2 laps to go.
It was the right call.
But it was the right call. It came out at the right spot, and you put him in a situation. Parker did a great job playing defense for a long time. I thought he put himself in a great... Parker executed everything he could. fastest car won the race.
Yep, absolutely. So great stuff from the Roval. Guy that had a great weekend at the Roval was William Byron. His crew chief, Rudy Fugle, he joins us next here on Crew Call. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Let's get right to it. Over to Hendrick Motorsports we go. Crew chief for William Byron, Rudy Fugle joins us. Hello, Rudy. How are you?
Doing great. Good morning, fellas. It's great to be on again.
Rudy, always great to chat with you. Okay, round of 16, round of 12, 2 road courses, 2 drafting tracks, 2 traditional racetracks. Is there a big relief factor now, or do you kind of like the chaos, or is there a relief factor that you guys have navigated through all of that?
Yeah, it definitely relief, and feeling strong about our team and how we handled the adversity and the different tracks and it really had a really strong round of 12. So feel like we have some good momentum going heading into these, really traditional NASCAR tracks that we're going to have for the next 4. So, just super excited about, the tracks we're going to. And yeah, we feel like we have a little bit more control. We know it's going to be tough, but we definitely have notes and more control of the race car and the speed aspect, we think.
Yeah, you've hit on 4 or 5 things I want to ask questions about right there. But let's look at the round of 12. 134 points scored for you guys. Locked yourself through on points after 2 races. That is an accomplishment and really allows you to go to the Roval with a little pressure off and maybe an eye looking forward. But you didn't let up on that. Second, third finishes for the round. You talk about it, but that has to be a huge confidence builder and momentum builder. Just a chip on your shoulder, actually, heading into what is the most traditional round of the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. We've kind of had some ups and downs here and there. We've had some really strong races. It felt really good about our race cars. Just had things we keep improving on as a team before the playoffs started. And then even for the first round, we had some things happen. We had a good race going in Watkins Glen, ended up in the tire barrier or over the fence almost. And then Bristol just wasn't a good race for us. So we were happy to get to Kansas, brought some really good speed, had a chance to win. And then, Talladega, yes, we had a little bit of luck on our sides, but we executed really well. So like you said, that locked us in. And in the Roval last week, it was nice to we didn't work any less. And you didn't spend any less time on the Roval. What it does is you don't debate things over and over and over like you do sometimes when, especially in a cut race when so much is on the line. Sometimes you overthink it too much. So you're able to just like, okay, that's the decision. We move on. Had some teammates, working hard on Las Vegas a little bit early. So all those things, make us feel a little bit more prepared on a Tuesday heading to Las Vegas for the round of 8. So that's great.
Yeah, and I guess I want to go broad on the round of 8. It looks traditional, right? 2 intermediates and a short track. What are the unknowns of this round that the viewer isn't thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, Homestead is nothing like Las Vegas. It's its own, racetrack. It's got a lot of characteristics and similarities to the tire wear and the fall off of Darlington, but it really doesn't as well. It's just its own little animal. The track is just shaped so differently, and you have to be able to run the bottom well at some point. And that's the hardest part. It's really easy to go focus and run up top, but to make passes, to make time, you have to be able to run the bottom early in runs, and you have to really be able to make passes on the bottom late in the runs. And so having a car that's versatile is really, really hard. Las Vegas can be a lot of different things, especially if it's hot, which it's not this time. So there's one variable that's going to be the same, but the difference there, I think, is the bumps are always worse for this race. So, the car handling, if you can, with it being cooler, you're going to want to run lower and you're going to want to handle those bumps better. So you got to have a car that can do that. And when it doesn't, you're going to move up and the guy's going to make speed. He's going to have a lot of throttle time. But if you can make a pass and you can run the bottom a little bit longer in Las Vegas, that'll be important. So those 2 tracks, totally different, require different things in your race car, but no matter what, it require a lot of speed and grip.
You mentioned, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I want to talk a little bit more about the bumps at Vegas. Have they evolved? How much have they evolved? And what's your expectation going into this weekend?
Yeah, I don't think they've gotten a ton worse really over the years. We just see them. I think they disappear in the first race because I think it's cooler over the winter. all the ground and the asphalt all kind of just, it doesn't have the heat on it all summer long, making all those swells bigger. And some tracks you go to and they just get worse and worse and worse. Like the ground underneath kind of falls away. There's always stories about Charlotte having trash underneath the corners, and that's kind of falls. There's all these witch hunt stories, but Vegas, it seemed to stay very similar. It's just different from race 1 to race 2. And truck racing, we would only go there when it was bumpy. We only used to go there in the summer, and Cup never used to. So we always experienced that. We started going for only the last couple times while I was truck racing in the fall. And when it was like, man, the bumps are nowhere. So that's where I kind of recognize those differences. It's just, maybe we were on a different schedule than Cup on the bumps and kind of recognize that.
Well, let's keep in mind, Charlotte did have a sinkhole in the infield at one point, too. So there is something that happens with Charlotte to make the bumps worse. You talked about the fact that Vegas, this is traditionally a hot race, and it's not going to be this time. I looked at the weather. I think it's low to mid 70s. And you talk about the bumps being worse in this race. Does that temperature coming back in the 70s make it race more like the spring race, or is it still like the ground saturated temperature-wise, and that's still going to take the grip away?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to not have as much grip as the first race, but definitely way more than we normally have here. So we're going to, expect higher speeds for the entire run. We're going to have less fall off, and you're going to have to, have a fast car. It's going to be harder to pass. I think a mile and a half, what makes those so great in Cup racing right now is the cars get looser as they go, and you get cars at lap 30 to 40 and they're sliding off the corners. With a cooler race, it doesn't happen as much. So you have to keep that balance, right. You normally have to start a little tighter to not end up too loose. And so that is the dynamic that is going to change, that we have to try to nail right or get correct on Saturday. But the other difference is, thankfully, Saturday, this is the first time we're actually going to practice when we race. We normally practice at like 9 a.m. Track's super fast, and it's nothing like when we race on Sunday. And this year we're having a morning inspection. Like we practice at 1:30, and our race is from 11:30 to 2:30. So it's more traditional, more the same time.
And you talk about the pace being up. You've said that a couple of times, and it comes to mind for me, like, that changes a whole makeup of your setup, doesn't it? Because as you go faster, you travel more, and that everything goes differently.
Yeah, 100%. It's not only just the fast laps, but what you look like at lap 20 as well. So you're looking to handle the stop contact we all talk about. They talk about it on TV all the time. It's contact with the ground, and that's also contact with the internal shock stops. And, you have to be able to feel those, but you have to be able to get it right, because too rough is terrible, and too high is slow. So you got to manage that. And we're talking 30 thousandths, from slow to too much. So it's a really small window, and pace has a lot to do with it. So a lot of simulations being run all weekend, yesterday and today, to nail that down.
Rudy, you just mentioned, and you talked a little bit in a couple of answers ago about Homestead and being able to run the bottom. Sounds exactly like the conversation we have at Kansas. How similar are they? What are the differences? You guys had a good run out at Kansas there with a second place finish. Is there a lot you can bring from that into Homestead?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Kansas does have a lot of similarities. When it's hot and slick, it has a lot of the same needs. It's mostly top dominant, but the race is one for cars that can go make a pass and run a little lower. Doesn't always have to mean you're running, lefts on the bottom seam, but anywhere lower and make a pass and have momentum. Having a car versatile to do that, driver willing to make that happen and learn what it takes to make that happen is super important. Homestead is, and Kansas is getting close to. Homestead's my favorite track, anymore, just because it's so hard. It's just a lot goes into the setup and what you need out of the driver, the whole team. You're going to have a lot of pit stops. So it's just an amazing race.
You sound just like the guy sitting across the table from me with your love for Homestead. My gosh, that's all we talk about with Todd.
I love it because it's a mile and a half with 2 straightaways. The fact that you've got 2 straightaways, I think, but anyway, to your point, you run against the wall, you can crutch yourself there, you've got to go someplace, you got to go where they aren't to pass cars, and that's going to be cool. You brought up, I'm going to transition this one, you talked about this round, you talked about Vegas, you talked about Homestead. You won at Martinsville in the spring, but we're taking a different tire back. What kind of challenges does that bring to you?
Yeah, the notebook is ripped up again. So, that's basically so. I mean, hopefully, and really, if you don't overthink it, a lot of the basics on the car, from geometry and setup standpoint, a lot of that basics should be similar. But what you're looking for from a total balance, and how you make your car turn. So what springs you run, what wedge, nose weight, a lot of that stuff, even brake pads for braking balance, a lot of that stuff's probably going to be different. And most of that stuff you can't change. So, you got to take a little bit of notes you have, and it'll be different, 100%. There was some stories about how this tire really didn't like to lay rubber. And then there's some stories about how when it was just on top of each other, it sort of did lay rubber. So, all that's the biggest thing. It's always Martinsville's, does it lay rubber or not? Mm-hmm. How big are the rubber patches? And that just determines how much you need to turn, and if you're set up to run, super fast pace and not a lot of rubber, and then you get a bunch of rubber stack, it's not going to go well. You're going to be in trouble. So that's the biggest guessing game. And we'll try to get all the data we can to make those good decisions. We've kind of looked a little bit that far ahead, but haven't dove into it enough yet.
Some stories, that's how we're basing it around. Some stories say this and some say that. That is for sure. Rudy, another thing Todd Gordon talks about is the second most important race of the season is the first one of this round, Las Vegas. Do you echo that as far as the importance of maybe going to Las Vegas and the luxury of possibly winning that race and what that would mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's huge, being able to focus your whole company's attention to your Phoenix car for a couple of weeks. Because, Hendrick, we expect and hope to have 3 cars in Phoenix, but you're never going to get all 3 of them in before in Phoenix. It's going to take a while. So if you can have a week or 2 of selfishness on your car and how it gets built, the attention paid to detail when it starts at the very infancy of that car build. That's always going to help, and then you can manage and strategize your team and how that works really, really well. So it's definitely super important. I don't think it guarantees you anything, but it definitely can help everything on the team.
You brought it up, and this is one of the things I'm gonna put my statement out there. I always like to be the only guy of my organization in this round of 8 because of what you just talked about is that it becomes all about me.
Yeah.
And if I can win at Vegas, everything's about Phoenix at that point. You're in a different situation. You've got 2 teammates. There's 3 of you. And kudos to HMS. They have done, the performance is exceptional.
Yeah.
And you've got 3, had 4. Well, anyway, we're going to leave it at 3. We're going to leave that one alone. Unfortunate situation at the Roval. But talk about the challenges of having 3 in this round and how you guys kind of work together or don't work down your path.
Really, it should be no different than we have all year long. That Mr. and Mrs. Hendrick give us this huge resource of people, company, and everything, and we're bringing 4 cars every week. It seems like that can all win the race.
Yeah.
And we prove that by getting to where we are. So that should be good enough. And that's what we look at. And everybody steps their game up just a little bit. If all 500 employees step their game up, then we get the attention we need. There's enough people, there's enough time, there's enough, IP here, people IP to do all the work. So I'm hoping that we can have that, and we can give that present to our bosses to have 3 in Phoenix, and we'll work whatever we can to get there.
Deal with those problems when you get there. That's for sure. Rudy, it is always a pleasure. I know it's a busy week getting your car ready and out the door. Thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Anytime.
There we go. Rudy Fugle from over at Hendrick Motorsports. Stay with us. More Crew Call in just a moment. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Todd Gordon and Steve Post. If you like what we're doing here on Crew Call, like, subscribe, share, do whatever we do on social media. Spread the gospel of what we're doing. That helps us just continue doing what we do here on Crew Call. Always enjoy the chance to talk to Rudy Fugle. He's just one of those gems in the garage area or here on Crew Call. He always is good.
Yeah, he does a great job. He does a weekly segment on the Morning Drive as well with Mike Bagley and Pete Pistone on Sirius, and he does a good job with it. He's real. And obviously you see that I have a lot of admiration for him because he thinks a lot of the ways that I do, but loves for the same racetracks. And He's done a great job. He and William Byron, since this pairing came together, they've really elevated the game and done a great job. Great momentum out of this last round of 12. You know, second, third,
Yep.
In a great position, coming into racetracks that I think can be really good for them. I look forward to what they've got coming forward. I love that he gave the company answer there at the end.
That's right.
But he alluded to it a little bit. When you win, there's a little bit more focus on me for Phoenix. So I look forward to what these guys have done. Kudos to HMS, Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, barring a disqualification, which whatever happened.
Yeah.
They were going to have 4 cars through the round of 8.
Pretty good.
And they've had that performance. So I look for, Kyle Larson dominated the race last weekend, but I think Williams capable of giving him a run for the money at the next 2 intermediates.
Larson, Bell, Reddick, Byron are in right now on the basis of points. Blaney, Hamlin, Elliott, Logano. When I look at this, though, Todd, there are 8 guys that you can make the cause to win the championship.
Yeah, there's nobody here that you say is not going to make it through.
Correct.
There's nobody on that list that you go, they've gotten lucky to get here. There's nobody there.
No.
I mean, if you look at it, the bottom of it's Joey Logano, who's made the championship for every even year since the inception of this.
Yeah, and Paul Wolf and Joey could go to Vegas and do a 5-tire change or a 2-tire change or be aggressive.
He's won there multiple times.
That is a team. That is a team that they and Joey. You put Joey Logano in the front of a field at the end of a race, a green, white checker. My money's on Logano every time.
Yeah,
he's a killer when it comes to wins, and that's all you need to do.
He elevates in those situations, and he doesn't make mistakes. So, I mean, but you look at it, I mean, Tyler Reddick's had a great run through the summer.
Yeah.
Look for them to get back on track. A great recovery last weekend to get themselves into the round of 8. Ryan Blaney, I think, is still one of my, if you ask me who wins the championship, Ryan's one of the 2 that I'd list.
Yeah. Ryan and Christopher Bell.
That's it.
Seabell's who I have.
I mean, that's it. As dominant as Kyle Larson was this weekend, Seabell could run with him this weekend.
Yes, he could. And
actually, Larson alluded to that in his post-race interview, that he thought he could stretch it from Seabell, and he couldn't there at the end. But this is going to be a great...
It really is.
It is. And these 3 races, I mean, Vegas being a little cooler, it's going to be a little different for these guys. Homestead's iconic racetrack. I miss our championship being there because I think it's the best racetrack we've got. But I understand the Phoenix piece. And then Martinsville, we don't know what the tire is going to do. As Rudy alluded to, if it lays rubber, it's a whole different racetrack. Top comes in, wrapping around the curve comes in. You get 2 wide racing. If it doesn't build rubber, it's right around the bottom. This
reminds me of what we had at Bristol, and how do you calculate what we have at Bristol?
It's an unknown.
Is it going to be fall last year Bristol, or is it going to be spring Bristol? And then when we get the same. And
then when we get close enough, we'll look at ambient temperatures and see how that's going to impact things. It's all a question mark. So there's, as much as the first 2 rounds were chaotic, that Martinsville is a big question mark at the end of this round.
Win Vegas or Homestead, and that takes a lot of the mystery out. The one other thing to note about this, we've had drivers. William Byron was locked in going into the Roval, but points were still matter. Points are still important. The other thing with winning at Vegas or Homestead, points no longer matter.
Yeah,
points no longer matter. Phoenix matters. That's all. That's it. So it's
and I've been there. In 2018, Joey and I won Martinsville, which was the kickoff race of this round, not the final race. But then you get to go to the next 2 races. One, you get to look forward. You're going there. And the shop knows we're going to compete for a championship.
At Phoenix,
yes. So it's the elevation of everybody does everything they can, but there's a little bit more when you know it. Right. Not when you think it, when you know it. But then you get to go to the next 2 races and race people. I mean, if you go win the second one, then nobody else is guaranteed like you are.
Exactly.
Like,
put everyone a bunch of hurt. Put everyone in a bunch of Tums and acids. Yes. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. It's the psyche game, and that's part of this as well.
Well, and it's just got to be. I don't care what anyone says. Everybody started in this game to go to the racetrack on Saturday night and whoop their buddies. That sort of thing. When you get in, like when one of these playoff drivers wins at Vegas, they're going to Homestead, they're going to Martinsville. They're just like, okay, hey, I'm just going there to get a trophy. And that's just such a throwback mentality to me that makes any one of these 8 dangerous at that second race.
Yeah. I think any of them. And Denny's like a sleeper underneath everything here.
Yeah.
I just like, we don't talk a lot about him. You don't know when it can happen. They've kind of snuck their way through a couple rounds. I mean, first round, we all talked about it. Second round, he got through.
I'll be really curious to see. My big picture philosophy on this is that team is really, really good when they're on offense. It appears to me they've ran the first 2 rounds on defense. And to me, they go out at Vegas, whether they win the race, if that looks like that 11 team on offense, then I think that's just my big picture read on them. They just don't seem to be attacking everything like when that team is attacking and everything is going right. They're as good as anybody in the business.
Yes, yeah, they are. And by the way, don't sleep on Chase Elliott.
No, not at all. No, not at all.
It's just any of the 8. Any of the 8 I could put through and be in a great spot.
It is going to be awesome. That is for sure. Performance Racing Network has all of the coverage this week at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We would encourage you to check out all of Motor Racing Network's weekly offerings. NASCAR Live, our Tuesday night tradition. NASCAR Live Wide Open, which is our Thursday podcast. NASCAR Coast to Coast, where we cover the roots of racing. Wing Nation, talking sprint cars. And, of course, here, NASCAR Crew Call. We are grateful for Rudy Fugle joining us, but more important than all of that, thank you for joining us this time on Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network.